Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining our PENTalk today. Our topic today is Make the Shift to Automatic. I'm Beth Parker with Pentegra. I'm so glad you joined us. Before we begin, I want to go over just a few housekeeping items. First, please find the control panel that's located on your screen. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them through the question box. We'll try to answer as many as possible, but want to be respectful of your schedule and end on time. If we don't get to your question, we'll definitely follow up with you afterwards. Also on your control panel is a handout section. I've put in a copy of today's presentation. You can download that now or at any point before the end of the call. Let's get started. We're joined today by Jose Ronquillo, who's an education and plan consultant for Pentegra. Jose's been in the retirement plan industry for almost 20 years now, and since joining Pentegra in 2015, he's provided retirement plan education and enrollment meetings for participants nationwide. Jose got his start at Johnson & Wales, where he earned degrees in international business and in management. Jose, thanks for presenting today. Let's get started.
Thanks, Beth. Well, as Beth mentioned, welcome to today's PENTalk. My name is Jose Ronquillo, and I am an education consultant here at Pentegra. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Our topic today is Make the Shift to Automatic. Our agenda: why choose automatic enrollment? We'll be covering growth of automatic enrollment, auto-escalation, types of automatic enrollment, because there are multiple types, what employers are saying about the benefits of automatic enrollment, and how do you implement these auto features. Now, before we actually jump into our definitions and really move through our presentation, it's important to remember that participants always have the opportunity to make changes in their plan. So you can always opt to defer in your plan. You can always opt to change your investments. You have that flexibility within the plan. What automatic enrollment does is what you're really doing there is changing your default investment rate. So instead of individuals jumping in at that 0%, they're actually going to be moved into the plan. So by definition, automatic enrollment, is automatically enrolling new hires into a qualified default investment alternative within a defined contribution plan at a fixed contribution rate. And a lot of times that'll be tied in with auto-escalation. And we'll talk about why auto-escalation is important as we proceed as well. And what automatic escalation does is it automatically increases participants' contribution rates at regular intervals by predetermined amounts. There's another less popular method of automatic enrollment, and there's that QDIA re-enrollment. And what that does, they actually redirect existing account balances and future participant contributions from existing investment allocations to a QDIA or qualified default investment alternative, unless the participant opts out or makes another election before assets are moved. Provided the plan sponsor has satisfied the safe harbor requirements, it will be provided user ERISA relief under Section 404C for investment outcomes related to QDIA. Now, remember, whenever you're making these types of changes to your plan, the participant will always have that option to make those deferrals and actually jump in. But as we all understand, individuals do tend to be more reactive than they are proactive. So we're trying to help them secure their financial well-being and get themselves into the right locations for the future. And an automatic enrollment contribution arrangement encourages employees to begin contributing to the plan as soon as they're eligible to join the plan. It also is an effective way for an employer to increase participation in retirement plans and make it easier for that plan to pass required annual non-discrimination testing. Generally, most plans will deduct automatic contributions from an employee's pre-tax wages. This means that the amounts deducted are not included in that employee's taxable wages in that given year and are not subject to those income tax withholding requirements. Now, in the years since automatic enrollment, plan design has become available, and it's frequently reported that most employers offering 401k plans are aware of automatic enrollment, but they feel they don't have enough information to make a decision in terms of adding this feature to the plan. Their main concerns end up falling around employer contribution rates, the effect of employee turnover when combined with automatic enrollment, and resent or resisting having deferrals automatically withheld from pay. When we take a look here, it's really interesting to understand that yes, when automatic enrollment is rolled out to a plan, you tend to have higher participation rates, but deferral rates sometimes aren't as high. And that's where you might want to consider adding auto escalation. But you look at individuals that actively take a role and jump into plans, you see they end up at that higher deferral rate going forward. So it's very interesting to look at those facts and stats. And there are ways to kind of bridge that gap and work yourself forward and help those individuals work themselves forward through those automatic features that are available to them through the plan. Now, contrary to common perception, automatic enrollment didn't start with the passage of the Pension Protection Act in 2006. Rather, it was made possible by IRS ruling 9830 in 1998. This ruling gave employers the ability to automatically enroll employees through a concept called negative consent, where absent objection, employees are automatically enrolled into their company's 401k plan and needed to voluntarily opt out of participating. Still, the true catalyst for adoption of automatic enrollment has been the protections and opportunities provided in the PPA, specifically federal preemption over state laws that made having prohibited automatic enrollment in the past. That's all been squared away now. As we take a look here, look at the way automatic enrollment has grown through these plans throughout the years. So you see back in 2005, you had 22% of plans that were already automatic enrolling individuals. And then 2006 came around with PPA, moved up to 37%. But now, back in 2018, that number, 73% of plans actually are participating in automatic enrollment. And it is to help with plan growth and all those additional benefits that you'll see as we proceed as well. Auto-escalation is another interesting feature because we saw that graph, and you've seen other plans that start off at these lower amounts, and those individuals, they just stay at those lower amounts because they are still being reactive. So it's important to keep in mind that benefit of auto-escalation is going to help individuals get to these higher amounts for the future. And you look at how much it's grown in such a short amount of time, look at the overall growth is almost 20% in a 3-year window. Now, defaults play a large role in helping employees achieve their financial security. When PPA was enacted, the most common default rate was 3%. So here it's illustrated as that gray portion of the bar. The deferral rate of 6% has grown from being 4% of the overall total, depicted here in purple, to 33%. A likely result, some plan sponsors availing themselves to that QARCA benefit through the safe harbor option, but others simply just adopting that higher deferral rate going forward. Remember, that 6% is going to help them get to those higher amounts. And a random fact about 6% is if they work an 8-hour workday, 30 minutes of your day is 6%. So it is really interesting to see these higher amounts. And we've seen other plans that literally individuals are starting in at much higher amounts. Remember, with plan design associated with automatic enrollment, you're not stuck with the initial election. You can always amend that. You can always change that going forward. We've got multiple plans that are on their 3rd or 4th iteration of automatic enrollment. And it's about finding what works best for your plan participants. Always touch base with your plan consultant or your relationship manager to help figure out what's going to be your best fit. And remember, you can adjust this along the way as well. This is another interesting slide here because you would think that the change would be drastic if your deferral rates were higher for the default or the automatic enrollment. But the effect of employers raising the defaults above 3%, as you can see in this chart here, are a minimal impact. If the default rate rises by 1%, you could expect your participation rate to drop by about 1%. Additionally, increasing results have just about the same effect. So it's just gradually a smaller downtick when you have these higher entry points. Now, when we're talking about automatic enrollment options, you actually have 3 different methods. And obviously, all of our plans are different, and you're going to have different availability and different features that might be better suited. And the best person to speak to at PENTalk is going to be either your plan consultant or your relationship manager. But let's go ahead and go over the definitions of ACA, EACA, and QACA. So ACA, EACA, and QACA. ACA, also referred to as automatic deferral or automatic enrollment or a negative election. It has many different titles, but what it ends up being is automatically reduces an employee's compensation by a fixed percentage, and that amount is contributed to the employer's 401k plan. In essence, they all do that, but they're a little different, right? So for EACA, or an eligible automatic contribution arrangement, participants are treated as having elected to defer an amount equal to a uniform percentage of compensation provided under the plan until they specifically opt out of the arrangement. And QACA, or qualified automatic contribution arrangement, all eligible employees, current or new hires, who have not made an affirmative election to defer or decline participation are treated as having elected to defer an amount equal to a qualified percentage of compensation. And it provides an ADP and ACP safe harbor alternative. So let's look at kind of a little chart in terms of how they differ, what boxes get checked off in certain, arrangements. So the most basic level is going to be that automatic contribution arrangement, or the ACA. With QACA, it requires an employer contribution. On your basic safe harbor, QACA contribution ends up being 100% of the first 1%, then 50% on the next two after that, and as always, that can be enhanced. EACA can be added at any time, but for EACA and QACA, that has to be 1-1, and those are both going to need, they're going to need the additional notifications. All of them end up needing notification, but participants can withdraw contributions from EACA within those first 90 days if they decide, I don't want to participate in this and I want that money back. QACA has that safe harbor protection. With EACA, it offers an extended time frame for ADP and ACP test failures, so you get an additional added amount of time to resolve those failures there. And with QACA, it's really interesting, right? Because you can avoid the auto escalator if you determine, you begin your default contribution at a rate of 6%, but QACA has to kind of get moved up to 6%, and you can't escalate beyond 15% automatically with the QACA feature. Now, we've leveraged other plans and other individuals that have already been using the automatic enrollment feature, and this is what we've heard back from them. So we've done this survey and looked at this information. So you take a look here. I actually like to start at the bottom, right? So 38% said, we have more employees participating in a plan. But once you have more employees participating in a plan, then you see the next step up, 23%. One of the benefits that they felt was, we have grown our plan assets at a faster rate. Those two features kind of give you that next benefit, right? We've been able to negotiate investment management fees more aggressively because now you're part of a larger plan and you've got more individuals involved. We've achieved lower record keeping fees because your plan is growing, and these are all benefits of that automatic contribution arrangement. But probably the most important scenario is, right, we've experienced improved employee participation. It might not be the biggest one that jumps out of you on this screen here, but it's a scenario where these are bigger benefits in that longer term for those individual participants as well. Now, when you decide if you want to participate in adding automatic enrollment, remember, this is a plan amendment, so it does take time. Things like that, QACA and that EACA, they're going to be kicking in at the beginning of the year, and they're probably going to have that longer time frame, so you are going to want to refer back to that plan consultant or that relationship manager for your exact timetables in terms of getting those started. But the things that you're going to need to consider are your default percentages in terms of deferrals. Where do you want to start these individuals at? Do I want to jump in at 10%? Do I want to have them jump in at a lower amount? Do I want to add auto-escalation? Do I want to bring those two things together? Where do I want that to end off? All those things would be considered, and that would be that conversation that you would have with that RM or that plan consultant. When is a default investment appropriate? And in this case, what is my default investment? So that's another feature that you'd consider when you're looking at implementing that automatic enrollment contribution. And what's the cost associated with administering this new feature in terms of the overall big picture, and where do we benefit from it? And that conversation is had, with that plan consultant and that relationship manager to help you figure out if it's the right step and how it can benefit you going forward. Now, it's important to remember your plan participants or employees, better said, they're never blindsided by this. I know sometimes some individuals will still miss all these things, but there's at least 4 different times that they'll be notified in terms of an automatic enrollment. Chances are during their new hire onboarding notification, they'll be notified that there is an automatic enrollment in the 401k plan. The education material that comes out from PENTagra will definitely have it. The summary of the plan description references the automatic enrollment. And then our last kind of line of defense in terms of individuals being notified is our eligibility notice. They'll be notified at that point in terms of that there is an automatic enrollment if they opt not to do anything. So they'll still have multiple scenarios where they'll be notified that'll give them the opportunity to opt in. Because even though, we all love automatic enrollment, we've seen that individuals that make active elections end up at those higher points. So we want to make sure that they're trying to stay as actively involved as possible, but we want to make sure that no one's slipping through the cracks. And that's one of the biggest benefits of automatic enrollment, because we're getting those individuals going, saving for the future, because we want to make sure that everyone can retire and set themselves up accordingly. Now, if questions were to come up in the future, feel free to give us a call at the 866-633-4015 number, or visit us at pentegra.com. Now, Beth, did we receive any questions?
Yes, thank you, Jose. I have a couple of questions, but first I want to remind everybody that you can download today's presentation from the control panel if you want it. Okay, first question I had come in: why do you think deferral rates are lower for auto enrollees, and how can we help them?
That's a great question. It just comes back to that same conversation, Beth, of individuals being more reactive than they are proactive. And you have that scenario where they might have gotten automatically enrolled in at that lower amount, and they just never revisited it. They never decided to jump in and actively manage their account, so they just stayed at whatever that initial default investment was. And one way to help them, that type of individual, the best thing to do is add that auto-escalation feature, because that's going to help them move up to those higher amounts. Maybe set that up a little higher so that they notice, so that they are actively involved, and that'll give them the opportunity to really set themselves up accordingly.
All right, very good. Here's another question. What rate should I start my auto enrollment? At what rate?
The conversation should definitely start at least at whatever your plan is matching. Sometimes individuals feel that might be too drastic of a jump, but once you've seen how the automatic enrollment works, and really the fact that individuals are once again just staying reactive, it helps you understand that that's going to really get them at least getting that portion of it, and then maybe you tie it in with auto escalation. And as we looked back, you saw it was real common that individuals will start a plan with a 3% automatic enrollment, and then they might auto escalate them up to those higher amounts. But once again, it's going to differ for every single plan out there, and you want to make sure that you're trying to give yourself the best idea, and the best idea would be to really review that with your plan consultant and relationship manager. But to be honest, deferral rate recommendation from PENTagra is going to be 15%, and that's going to be, that number that helps individuals actually reach their retirement goals.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Jose, again for putting on the presentation. We're going to give everybody a few minutes back in their day by ending our call now. I hope to see you on our next PENTalk. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thank you, Jose.